Purple Daily is daily Vikings entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.
I will ride with this group.
Seriously, man. Please.
And away we go.
State of the Offense Tuesday here. And before we dive into a short-term and a long-term discussion about Sam Darnold, and the short-term discussion is centered around the Vikings and Super Bowl. Long-term, obviously, Sam Darnold in purple. Let's take the audience to Quick Trip, Judd, to start this off here on a Tuesday.
I think that's a grand idea, and I'll start this off by saying, ho, ho, ho. Sports Dad has been giving you the gift of the Quick Trip idea for how long now? It's been months, and you're stopping at Quick Trip, and I get your notes, I get your pictures. You're saying, Quick Trip, this is fantastic. Sports Dad, it's even better than you're describing, and now I want you to pass along the love for the holiday season of Quick Trip by giving the gift of Quick Trip gift cards to those around you, those who, get up in the morning and need a cup of coffee, need a snack, heck, need breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It's this easy. Quick Trip gift cards. Pick up one in store when you stop in or online. QuickTrip.com/gift cards, hot coffee, fresh groceries, snacks, whatever you need, including gasoline. QuickTrip.com/gift cards. The gift of Quick Trip. Pass it along.
Okay. Where does the Vikings offense rank in some key categories? We start there every single Tuesday, and then we'll get into some talking points here and some questions we can kick around. I believe we also are going to have a stud stable for the first time in a couple weeks.
I was worried.
I was worried too. Apparently our guy Randy had a flare-up of his condition.
Again?
His, tinea cruris would be
started,
the medical.
he got out on the dating scene, and then it's, oh no.
Boy, that's,
We'll have to ask.
We will. So where does the Vikings offense rank? Scoring offense, 9th. Yards per play, 9th. Expected points added, 12th. Third down conversion rate, 10th. Red zone touchdown rate, 11th. And turnover rate, they went up the last couple weeks from 28th up to 21st because they've kind of stopped turning the ball over as often.
Yes.
So basically, the snapshot is a fringe, but pretty solidly the 9th or 10th best offense in the NFL. Scoring 9th, yards per play 9th, analytically kind of 12th, and then some of the situational stuff 10th, 11th. And before we get into a big Sam Darnold discussion, just your thoughts on the overall state of the offense.
The two things that stand out that you just went through are the last two things. The red zone, 4-4 on Sunday. Absolutely huge. Absolutely huge. In fact, I'm willing to bet that jumped at least a few spots going up from the previous week.
I think from 18th to 11th is where they jumped.
That execution is just enormous. So that's the first thought. The second thought is Sunday's game was only the third game all season. Houston and the Rams lost being the others, in which the Vikings have not turned over the football in any fashion. Yeah. Also enormous. So those are probably the two situational master categories that I take away from as being the most positive, because if you can execute successfully, consistently in the red zone and do not either fumble the ball or throw picks, and I believe Darnold is now perfect, no picks, 11 touchdown passes past 4 games, you are going to win a lot of football games. And more importantly, you're going to win playoff games, because that's not a fluke.
Well, let's let that be a segue into the short-term Sam Darnold discussion first. So the first of what's going to be 4 different offensive categories of discussion here. So the state of Sam Darnold short-term. Here's where he ranks in 7 key quarterback categories. Traditional passer rating, 3rd. QBR, 15th. Expected points added, 7th. Yards per attempt, 4th. PFF grade, 6th. Adjusted completion percentage when you take away drops, 4th. Big time throw percentage, 2nd, tied with Josh Allen.
Yep.
And that's a subjective scouting statistic, but
definite strength.
When you know it, when you know it when you see it.
We saw
kind
it
of a
in
thing.
July.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was the primary takeaway, I think, of both of us from going to training camp practices, right?
Yeah, well, deep throws for sure, and then just the willingness to hunt down the field, 100%.
Right.
So when you take Sam Darnold's average ranking in those 7 categories, it's 6th. So you could say he is around the 6th best performing quarterback in the NFL based on those categories, which is crazy. I mean, that is way more than anyone thought. That I think we all kind of figured, boy, if Kevin O'Connell can turn this dude into like a league average quarterback, that'd be a pretty nice accomplishment in 2024.
And coming off, to go back to the Colts and Jaguars games, 5 picks in 2 games. Like if you had told me, hey, hold on a second, in about a month and a half or so, like it's not that long ago, Darnold is going to be producing at this rate, I would have said, you're crazy.
Yeah, that fork in the road, the Jaguars game in particular, it's like, man, did we just see the best of it? Did he kind of rise up for a month and showed you what he's capable of, and now there's just too much to be unwired and he's too ruined? Right. Or will he flush it and get back on the track that he was showing early in the year? And he flushed it, man. So our friend of the show, Mike Sando from The Athletic, famous for his annual quarterback rankings, he did an exercise where he ranked all Vikings single-season quarterback performances in franchise history, and it was like a plot graph of the criteria was touchdown passes and yards per attempt to see who has had, based on that criteria, the best single-season quarterback performance in Vikings history. Now, obviously, in the last 30 years, you've got guys who are the league is kind of shifting, and it's easier to throw touchdown passes. And I don't think anyone's debating who the best quarterback in franchise history is, which would be Fran Tarkenton, but that's a totally different era.
Right.
But based on touchdown passes, cross-referenced with yards per attempt, the 3 best single-season quarterback performances in franchise history are number 1, 2004 Dante Culpepper.
Yep.
Number 2, 1998 Randall Cunningham. And number 3, 2024 Sam Darnold. That's pretty incredible.
That is absolutely incredible. Absolutely. And I thought that, so the one that came to my mind immediately was 2009 Brett Favre as well.
He's like 4th or 5th.
Which has to be close. But yeah, it's a testament to what Darnold's done. It's a testament to what O'Connell's gotten from him. And the funny thing about that list, though, and again, this goes into the team, right? The funny thing about the list is the common denominator is receivers. The common, Jefferson, Addison now, Culpepper, and Moss in 04. 98 was 3 deep, and Cunningham. And it's funny because in some ways what Darnold's done does remind me, and they're mostly very different as players, but it does remind me of what Cunningham came in here and did too, right? Like it's this, okay, now Cunningham was a stud in Philadelphia, but he had retired, I think, for a year, came back as a backup in 97 here, didn't play, and then because Brad Johnson got hurt early in 98, he played, but it was still very much the same if nothing else, the words that come to mind for both are the go balls.
Oh my gosh.
The go balls to Moss, the go balls to Carter, the go balls to Jefferson, Addison, probably more importantly. That's the thing is, and in the case of both guys, credit to them, they have the cojones to, 1, want to make that throw, and to 2, make that throw.
I was looking up for a future category here that I will get to later on in the state of the offense. In 1998, Randall Cunningham, actually, because Brad Johnson might have hit one in the first or second week too, but the Vikings quarterbacks as a whole had 25 40-yard completions or more that season.
Yep.
Just by far the best in the NFL. And they have a lot this year, and we'll get to some of those chunk plays. But here's my question to you, just short-term Sam Darnold, and then we'll get to a long-term Darnold question. If this 4-game run that he just gave you, 4-0, no, the turnover's gone, the interception's gone, but the high-end chunk plays down the field are all there. If he gives you a similar 4-week stretch of play in the playoffs, which Joe Flacco did 10 years ago, and Eli Manning has done it a couple times.
Sure. Can
this team win the Super Bowl?
Oh, with what he's done, yes, absolutely. I don't think that's a debate. Yes, yes. You have the components now. with every team, we can debate what the weaknesses are, what the problems are. But it just flat out with your question, the answer is to me an unequivocal yes. If he can do what he's done for the past 4 weeks, 11 touchdowns, no picks, complete confidence, yes. A lot of the problems that have been gone. I think there is no question that they could win a Super Bowl if Sam, and in the playoffs, it would be very impressive. Don't get me wrong. It's a different season. You're going to see different things. But yes, the answer is they could win. They could certainly get there, and they could win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, I agree. I think we have officially reached, I know that the three examples I'm about to list all ended in devastating fashion, but I think we've reached 1998, 2009, and 2017 levels of Super Bowl watch, where you've got, if everything is clicking, and each of those teams had a different style or a different sort of formula to it, but if all of the things are clicking, yes. I don't think this Vikings team is ever going to be considered at any point in the next 2 months a favorite to win the Super Bowl, because even in the NFC, like right now, you'd have to go on the road to Detroit or on the road to Philadelphia. Philadelphia is kind of coming apart at the seams internally right now, though, which is hilarious.
Well,
And then in the Super Bowl, you might have to face a dynasty Chiefs team that's very gettable, but they're still a dynasty Chiefs team.
Right.
A Buffalo team that's super high octane with one of the best quarterbacks of all time. So I don't think there's any scenario in which they are a favorite to win the Super Bowl, but they're on a small list of like 5 or 6 teams right now that absolutely can win it. And I will go as far as saying, if you could guarantee me the last 4 weeks of Sam Darnold transitions to middle of January through middle of February, I think they're on a list of like 3 teams at that point. I think it becomes maybe 4. I think it's like Lions, Chiefs, Bills, Vikings, and then you get into a close game and you see what happens, and you're up against Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. But I think that's what we're dealing with right now in the short term.
I think right now the most important thing projecting out to the playoffs. Forget the Super Bowl for a second. The most important thing to me is playoff game 1. What do we get? What do we get? Like, things are going to change. It gets more intense. Darnold is still. I mean, there's still there are going to be question marks. In fairness, there's going to be question marks about Sam Darnold in the next season. But what do we get? Because the way that he's playing now, with the poise, with where O'Connell has gotten him back to, my answer is yes. But I think that at the end of the day, 2022, lots of faults there with that team, but the poster of the Giants' loss was the check down by Kirk on 4th and 8, because at the moment of truth, by the way, in a season in which he had thrown an uncatchable pass to Justin Jefferson Buffalo, in which Jefferson caught the ball, in the moment of truth, nut cutting time, season on the line, he reverted back to who he really was. So, like, that's the thing is, like, can you take Darnold into, and you will not know this, O'Connell won't know this until we get there. Can you take him into the environment that we're talking about, feet to the ultimate fire, and he maintains what you're talking about, which is a 4-week period over which nothing seems to bother him?
I don't think he has that check down in him. Now, of course,
I agree with that.
If Kirk makes the pass he should have made, which is literally anything down the field and just take a chance with your season on the line,
yes,
then the main headline and only headline is, how could the defense give up 30 points or whatever to Daniel Jones again and get shredded? And,
sure.
Donatel was held accountable and got fired for that anyways. But I don't, like, if we're talking one game and it's close at the end and you need a play down the field, I think he goes down either throwing an interception 25 yards down the field, or the ball gets tipped away, or he takes a sack because he's just in the pocket. And I don't think he has it in him.
I agree with you.
To just immediately kind of bail on the play and throw a pass 5 yards short of the sticks.
I guess my point was do you revert back to what's in your quarterback DNA? So, like, Sam wouldn't check it down, but I'm saying is, do you get to a playoff game and he throws 4 picks?
Yeah, that's on the table.
That's what we need to see. Like everybody has their demons, and Darnold's is not checkdowns, but does he throw 4 picks? Do they fumble? There's just a lot of questions. But do I love what we have seen the past 4 games, quarterback play wise? Absolutely. You'd be crazy not to say yes.
He's got some Eli in him. He's got some Eli. They're both of them are kind of more like they're super nice guys who are kind of a little more like beta personality, and that they're going to defer to others to be the loudest person in the room. They're not going to be running up and down the sideline like a Patrick Mahomes or a Baker Mayfield, kind of MFing, get everyone fired up. They're just super low key with big arms and talent. And one guy was the number 1 overall pick, right? Eli.
Yep.
And Sam was a top 3 pick that really struggled early in their careers in New York. I mean, Eli came in and he led the league. Well, he was an interception machine throughout his career, but like early in his career, the year they won the Super Bowl, he led the league in interceptions that year and was terrible for most of that season. The Vikings beat the brakes off that team in 2007.
Yep.
And so, like, you could argue Eli Manning's quarterback DNA at that point, after 4 years in the NFL, was interception machine with kind of this aw shucks, bewildered look on his face all the time, that Eli face. But
great.
then, like, there was something about that dude that when January hit in 2007, and he did it again, by the way, in 2011, even better in 2011, he led the league the year before that in interceptions again with 25.
Yeah.
But he flushed his DNA and just like gave you 4 all-time games against the best teams in the league. And you can't promise anything. And yes, throwing 3 picks in the first round is absolutely on the table for Sam Darnold. But I also think he's got some Eli in him where he doesn't really worry about the picks that he's thrown. He's just going to go out there and throw the ball down the field and let's see what happens.
I think it's the ability in both cases to process the magnitude of the moment correctly. Like if you get caught up in, oh my God, I'm in the playoffs now, right? I can't make a mistake. You're going to make mistakes. But if you can maintain the same, like I do love the fact that Darnold threw 5 picks and was absolutely brilliant against the guy he replaced. Because the magnitude of that moment would have shrunk some guys. It would have been tough to process that. Like, oh my God, it's Kirk Cousins. It's his former coach, and I play for that coach now, and I've got to play well. And now you're screwed, right? So, yes, Darnold, I think you're on to something in the fact that I think when Darnold melts down, I don't think it's because of his conscience.
Yes. And also on the Eli comparison, there were 2 years. He went to the playoffs 6 different times with the Giants. And 2 different times, and all throughout his career, he was a double-digit interception guy. Once every 5 years, he'd throw 20 or 25, and they'd be on the verge of maybe it's time to move on from Eli. So of the 6 playoff runs, there was 2 years in which Eli was lights out, just like the best quarterback in the playoffs. But then there was a couple other times where he gets bounced in the first round, no touchdowns, 3 picks. 113 yards. The year after they won their first Super Bowl, they got beat in the first round. He completed 51% of his passes, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions, a 40 passer rating. Like the variance of you could get an all-time bad performance, and then the next year, 4 games that lead you to a Super Bowl championship, and then another clunker. And I think that's the wide range of variance we're dealing with. But unlike the previous starting quarterback for this franchise, I don't think Kirk had it in him to give you like 4 all-in, caution to the wind if needed, peak performances. I think his ethos was guarding against a mistake too much to win a Super Bowl. Darnold, almost to a fault, doesn't give a rip about making mistakes and will have these derailment games sometimes, but he has the top-end talent of a 3rd overall pick who's athletic and makes a play like he did to throw a touchdown pass to Jefferson on Sunday.
And that's the thing is, so one, Sam has a capability to move and scramble, which Kirk did not really have. And so he will make off-schedule plays that Kirk at times tried to make but couldn't make. But the other important factor, too, is going into the playoffs because of what Sam makes, you don't have to put the whole thing on Sam. Mm-hmm. Like Sam Darnold could have an okay but not great game, but if the defense, which by the way is filled with guys who you couldn't have had here in 2023, goes lights out, now you're not necessarily screwed. So yeah, there's just a lot of things here. But to go back to the answer to your question is with the way that they are playing now from the quarterback position, yes, there's no reason why you could not make a run if he gets hot or stays hot.
Okay, the long-term question, and I will say that we'll just do a brief version of this as part of today's State of the Offense. There will be much longer versions of this conversation in the coming weeks and the next 2 or 3 months, but Sam Darnold's market this offseason long-term, we had a couple reports over the weekend that are worth bringing up here. So Diana Rossini, she wrote in The Athletic that Darnold's price might continue to go up as teams evaluate the draft and available free agent quarterbacks. Front office executives believe that his experience and performance in Minnesota this season will make Darnold's market very competitive in March. Adam Schefter, ESPN, talked to his sources, and he said despite the success he had replacing Kirk Cousins, whom he is facing off against today, this was right before the game on Sunday, Sam Darnold and the Vikings have not had any discussions regarding a long-term contract. Darnold is scheduled to be a free agent after the season. And as you've pointed out on a couple different shows, these conversations about contracts don't happen until February anyway. So this is kind of a nothing burger. But I think there are like 5 quarterback needy teams around the league right now. And maybe Stafford retires and it opens up a spot, or maybe the Niners don't want to pay Purdy. But as of right now, the Raiders, the Giants, the Browns with Deshaun Watson being awful and out for all of next year.
Yep.
The Titans, I think I'm going to put on this list. Will Levis is a disaster.
Yep.
And the Jets need a quarterback, which seems unlikely that Darnold will go back there.
Yep.
But there's like 5 right now quarterback needy teams and only 2 draftable first-round quarterbacks of note, which means at least 3 teams, if my estimation is right, are going to be in the market for someone to come in and give them some high-end quarterback play. So there's a market. Like, there's definitely a market for him. With all that, what is the percentage chance right now that Sam Darnold is a Viking week 1 of 2025?
Right now, not knowing how this ends, so I have no clue. I would say I'd put it very low. I'd say 5%.
And I'm probably higher than that. I think it's like 20 to 25% right now.
But if it ends
I think it's
differently,
up.
who knows? But you know, as we talked about on the Scoop with Dukes as well on Tuesday, we don't know what Kevin O'Connell thinks here. We have no idea. I mean, he's going to get out there and he's very happy and he should be. But we have no idea behind closed doors. Has this taken so much work that he's exhausted and he can't wait to get to McCarthy, who, by the way, he sort of handpicked and is his guy? Has he said, you know what, this is a revelation. We had no idea. Like, I've done a lot of work here, but my God, Sam Darnold is, he should have been the 3 pick. So we don't know. And I do think the most important thing is, what does O'Connell think just from a starting point? Now, to your point, yes, it's going to get into ultimately finances, but I will stand by, if there is a chance in that 5% that Darnold is back, I do think it's a franchise tag. I do not think they're going to sign him unless you want to trade McCarthy or pull a Packers and basically say, at the end of the day, we'll make a decision on McCarthy without knowing a ton when his rookie contract's about to expire, which I think defeats the purpose. So I think if Darnold stays, I think it's a franchise tag, because that's at least a 1-year contract. Again, not locking yourself up, because you do have to leave the door open, Phil. You have to at least a smidge of, okay, this is great, but are you sure it's not a fluke?
Well, I want to come back to that in a second. But to your point about franchising, it seems like there's kind of 3 options long term. Number 1 being you sign him to a market deal. You say, we love this so much, or we went so far with him that like we have to stick with him, and quite frankly, it benefits us to do a longer term deal because we can shove the accounting into like 2026 and 27 to free up cap space for 2025, maybe 26. But I mean, right now, I think it's $40 million plus a year. It'd be like a 3-year, 120, 130 kind of a thing, that is one of the biggest like rising stock football players over a 6-month period. Like 2 years, basically 2 years guaranteed. Okay. So call it 3 years, 130, and 50 or 60 of it is guaranteed.
Okay, because
maybe 60.
Baker's 3 years, 100 million, 50 guaranteed.
Yeah, and the cap has gone up now. It'll be twice
so I think it
since that
exceeds
contract.
50 million guaranteed.
So again, what you could do there is if you decided, yeah, man, this is just he's so good, and also he's a former number 3 overall pick. It's not like he's a 7th round guy that's just outperforming his
Case Keenum
ability. Yeah, this is what he was supposed to be. If you could do void years and a big signing bonus and shove the cap hits further into like 27, 28 down the road, you'd maybe open up a window here in the next 2 years with Sam, where you would then still be able to bring in free agents, still keep your first round pick. In that case, you probably shop JJ McCarthy, which, again, the deeper discussions for another day.
Yeah.
You nailed the second scenario, which is a franchise tag. It's like a $41 million tag for 2025. So you could either just play him for another year on a franchise tag and have JJ sit again, or you could trade him off the franchise tag. And there's a couple different ways you could go about that. That's not unprecedented. And then the third scenario is you literally just let him walk and sign somewhere else, and you say goodbye, and you pick up like a 3rd round comp pick in 2026 for his services. The biggest question here that lingers with all of this is we went through at the top of the categories here that he is like 6th if you aggregate 7 key quarterback categories, and you also just watch with your eyes the last month. He's a top 10 quarterback in the league right now, with maybe even like more room as just a 26-year-old to get better. He's super athletic with a huge arm, and he's growing into what he's like a 5-year late bloomer because he was stuck with bad franchises. And this is where we would need Kevin O'Connell's opinion, because if you thought he was growing into being like a real dude, like an MVP, top 5 franchise carrying guy, and I don't think he is that right now, then that's the type of guy you would just write a check to and worry about the rest later. Like that, is there a scenario where he is living up to that potential? And hey, we have to account for the fact that he's just like a top 6 quarterback in the league for a 3-year window, or is that crazy?
Or are you afraid that the guy who's thrown 10 picks, including 5 in 2 games, is sort of really him, and now you're going to see that come back, which is why I think the playoffs become extremely important, because, if the Vikings go out in the first round and Darnold does not play well in that game, I think this conversation basically takes care of itself. My opinion is that O'Connell is extremely invested in McCarthy.
Yeah,
like extremely. So that's going to play a role here. And again, to your, to the whole conversation going back to Kirk Cousins, that came down to finances. So if Darnold comes in and is like, hey guys, here's what I'm worth, and they're like, no, you're really not. The other question I have, which has not been reported on and would be worth somebody checking, is because his contract is such a 2024 contract, Darnold is such a favorable 1 year, $10 million. I would be curious if his representatives got verbiage in that about not being allowed to franchise tag him coming out of 24, because it's such a cheap contract, and they knew he was going to get a chance probably.
Yeah.
So like if you're smart, you would say, okay, we'll sign this contract. It's a backup contract for what is probably going to be a starter, but you can't franchise tag him, because that's sort of a whammy.
Yep.
It would not shock me, because these guys, I believe Dukes has told us that creative arts agencies represent Sam. If they said the one thing you can't do is franchise tag him.
Yeah. Well, that would have to, that couldn't just be like a verbal there. That would have
no,
to
it would be in the
written
contract.
into the contract. Yeah. I mean, I my last thing on this for now is that I treat him a little, well, 2 things. One, right now, for me, JJ McCarthy is still, he's the guy long term. He is the prudent play from a roster building standpoint. Trust your ecosystem to elevate quarterbacks. Use the resources that you aren't spending on quarterback to make your team better. Like, that's where I'm at right now. But over the next 2 or 3 months, this show is going to explore all angles and have hypothetical discussions. And within that context, I do treat Sam Darnold differently than I treated Case Keenum 7 years ago. Keenum was a 7th round pick,
different world,
not nearly as physically talented, a journeyman backup who popped up and had an unsustainable career year. I treat Sam different than Kirk, even though Kirk had like 7 years or 8 years of pretty high-end quarterback play. there was always kind of a ceiling. He was never super highly touted coming out of high school or college. He was a 4th-round pick.
Yep.
He didn't have the physical tools that Sam has, or the upside or the ceiling that Sam has.
Yep.
So I would just say, like, I treat Sam a little differently because of his ceiling and his status as a 3rd overall pick.
And most importantly, this is a different world. It's a different Vikings world. It's run by different people. The coach is totally different. His perception of QBs. I will say the curveball, and just to wrap this conversation up, the curveball in this entire thing, it's going to sound funny, and it's not. Daniel Jones signing. If you were intent on bringing Sam Darnold back and you were just like, okay, screw it, do you bring Jones in? Because the Jones thing is a very interesting dynamic that's sort of just being slept on.
I think you still bring him in because the Sam thing is not in your control, really.
Right, but that's what I'm saying is I think that there's a lot going on here. And so I don't think there's been a decision made, but most importantly, I also think that the Vikings, right or wrong, might very well might perceive this entire thing as a product of a system that works, not necessarily the quarterback.
Yep. Okay, 2 more state of the offense categories coming and a stud stable. Let's talk about Padres, though, before we do anything else. Huh?
There we go. Craft brewing with an Irish lilt. That's right, folks. Padres. You know why Padres brewing is so great? You know why their beers, they're red, their lager is so fantastic? Because they only brew beer. That's right. They don't have a bunch of different things. They're not like multifaceted. We got this and that. Padres uses Irish and British grain yeast and hops to develop one thing, beers. You're looking at 4 outstanding beers. I've told you, the red is absolutely great. Here's the best news, though. Padres, they have a new distributor dealership, which means if you go into a bar and it does not have Padres, I want you to say, can you get it on tap? Because the answer now is yes. Liquor stores, same exact thing. If your local liquor store does not carry Padres, they certainly can, so ask for it. And I'm going to tell you right now, when you taste it, you are going to thank the sports dad because Padres is outstanding.
Amen. Woodhouse Spas also outstanding for a gift idea. And don't let my rugged nature fool you, Purple Daily audience. I'm a spa guy. I'll go to 2-3 massages a year. And you know what? If my wife's getting a pedicure, I'll take that calf massage too. I'll sit right next. I'll be the only guy in the whole place. Because I am comfortable in my masculinity. But Woodhouse Spas, locally owned, Maple Grove, Woodbury, Rosedale Center, potentially the perfect gift for your spouse, your mom, anybody on that list. Maybe it's a stocking stuffer. WoodhouseSpas.com, where you can find gift cards, or you can just walk into one of their locations, Maple Grove, Woodbury, Rosedale Center. 70 spa services, WoodhouseSpas.com for that gift card for the holidays. All right, let's see here if I can get his audio piped in. Randy in Cottage Grove, Randy Vikes 69 on the Twitter machine. We missed you last week, Randy.
Yeah, I was back had to go back as they say, in the hospital.
Oh, the hospital?
Wow.
Well, for the same condition, I had a flare again, and this was caused by stress. And this time it was not a losing streak as it was last time. It was the kicker situation. I had a lot of stress about us letting Romo walk because he played his ass off.
Wow. So I didn't realize that the cutting of a backup kicker led to a Jokic flare-up in that way. But that sounds terrible.
Tinea cruris is the
name
for the condition, and the stress is a big trigger. A lot of people, it's like they're also athletic, like I am, but also if you're stressed out. And I lost a little sleep over that because I said, "How's Riker gonna do?" And he comes back and he did yank one, and I said, "This is why I ended up in for another day or so of treatment." And I did get out in time. But it did cause me to miss a stud stable, and I thought it would be bad mojo, bad luck, but we were able to put it together anyway.
If I may, Randy, I think part of the problem, too, is I don't know that you should necessarily be trying to date in season. Because, like, you told us that you were back on the market now and going out on dates, and we all said the Tinea Curris and the Vikings playing, I don't think he should be. So I would just back off the dating until springtime, perhaps. Just some advice.
I think I should say delete the apps. Is the kids?
Yeah. I think you should. I think you should focus on one thing, and that is your love for the Vikings.
Well, I'm dialed in now. I mean, we're and no, everybody knows. By the way, that I know I follow the college game. Not I don't really. I follow the prospect game, I should say, and the draft and mocking is my true love, and. And I did listen to a lot of the people have been talking about what's going to happen with JJ McCarthy, and what's going to happen with Sammy Deepty, and then my suggestion would be keep them both.
Well, they could. I mean,
Yeah.
they could franchise Sammy Deep D, as you call him. They
He got
could
a
they could
couple
do
this
that.
week.
They could do that.
And
Get
then
a couple. Hell yeah.
you give JJ a chance to. He still hasn't taken a snap. He hasn't taken a. You're playing with fire if you say what Sam is. People that say, well, we learned the last and with Kirkle, not what you can do if you don't pay. But he's not as good as Sam. Kirkle is an average. He's just a check down Charlie.
This is causing
He's a
stress
guy.
again, Randy. See, Phil.
Yeah, Randy. These are
Randy,
just
chill.
for your own health. These are tomorrow problems,
Yep.
man. Like these are long term. Hey, this
Well,
is
here's the
Chicago
problem.
Bears
Here's my,
week.
my issue. Here's my issue. What if we win the whole thing? I won't even know what to do. We've never experienced that. It could be stressed out the other way.
Yeah, I don't. Well, hopefully, if they win the whole thing, you're not stressed out. Hopefully, that would be
Randy,
a
you
tension
don't sound like
release.
you're having fun. This team is 11-2, and you sound like a mess. I mean, no offense, but you don't sound well.
Just let's do the stable. I gotta get it off my chest.
Okay. All right. Well, here it is.
I'm worried about it.
It's a Vikings 11-2 stud stable. Let's see if I can hit this music without. There we go. Okay, here it is. Randy in Cottage Grove.
And this is an apologies that my physical ailment cost me last week's chance to do a stable, but this one is going to be double credit. So you get if you're in this stable, you can hang your hat on this one real big time.
Okay.
And we're going to start with a guy. What are you going to say about him? He's been in the stable pretty much every week since he said free 3, and that's Jordan Addison. He's a number 1A as far as I'm concerned. He'd be the number 1 guy, mouth to feed on a lot of teams. And in a couple of years, he may have to go be a number 1 somewhere else. But right now, he's a 1A here. And the more they pay attention over to JJ, more that JA is gonna continue to catch tutties, and that's 3 in a game, and that's good enough to be a stud.
Yeah, I think 3 he's been freed
Properly.
at this point.
His
Yes.
dad's happy.
Part of the reason he gets so many looks, so many deep looks too, is that a lot of attention gets paid to old number 18, who's setting all the records. He almost left here because he didn't want to play with Kirkle. So thank you, Justin Jefferson, for sticking around and not freaking out. And now you're being paid off, as they say. And he found his way back into the end zone a couple of times, and he's going to do it again against the Bears. He's going to go for 2 scores at least on Monday. But right now he's firmly back in the stable. And Justin Jefferson, you're a stud.
He's having like the worst year of his career in most categories, and he's still going to be 1,500 yards, and it's pretty ridiculous. Oh.
And here's a guy who we just chatted about him, and we do as you're right, Jeff, that we don't have this a tomorrow problem, but right now this is no problem at all with Sammy Deep D Darnold, and he went deep a couple of times. He's got a cannon. He's got what they call escapability. The one play he made a whole lot of something out of nothing, and he's thriving. And Sam, you want to look around and go get that bag, as they say. You better be careful, because this is you're a hell of a player, but this is a hell of a scheme too. Hell of a scheme for you, and KOC knows how to put you in a position to not only succeed, but kick ass. You're kicking ass, Sam, and this week you're kicking ass in the stable, and you're a stud.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, here's the guy who makes it all happen. He's the guy who, if we got, whoever's going to be playing quarterback 10 years from now when everyone's retired, they're still going to be good, because this he's got elite scheme. He's got a mind for the game. There's going to be quarterbacks lining up to come here. Go come here and figure out how you can get your career back on track, and that's KOC. KOC, you're a brilliant guy. I like the way you smile. I love the speeches that you give after the game. Sorry,
Okay, Randy.
and I love
Okay.
and
It's okay. It's okay,
when
buddy.
you do the game balls and you sometimes you cuss. I love it. It gets me fired up and jacked up. And sometimes I watch those clips 3 or 4, 7, 8, 9, 10 times, the same speech. And you're making us believe in ourselves again, KOC, and then you're stud.
I'm worried about him. I'm officially worried. I was worried he wasn't on.
He's gone.
He does not sound good.
Away we go.
Was he? He was crying there, right? That was
He was always. I thought he was on the verge
crying.
of tears before, but then
Wow.
he started. He was choking up and started crying during his. He's not right. He's you know what he's done. He's bitten off way too much.
I feel like if
Not
I
even
feel like he's
fun.
like self-sabotaging, I guess is what they would say in like therapy.
Yeah.
Where your favorite football team is 11-2, unexpected success.
Yeah.
This is a time to be. Now, maybe he's got some other stuff that I feel like he's pretty open on the show about what's going on in his life, but
I knew it was a mistake when he said that in season he put the dating apps on his phone.
yeah, you got to go
doesn't
zero
have the mental
zero
bandwidth to
dark
do that
LeBron, like when
doesn't
LeBron used to go off social for a month or two during the playoffs.
Yeah.
I think
He's too invested. He did not sound good. I am worried.
So before we get to a couple more state of the offense categories here, let's regroup and talk about Roku TV, America's #1 TV streaming platform. Gets me emotional thinking about Roku TV.
Should.
So they've offered the streaming platform for a long time, but now they have a new lineup of smart TVs made by Roku. The Mackies went and got a 65-inch Roku Pro Series 4K TV. That's me actually playing video games right there. Yep.
Oh,
My wife
mom's
doing
coming
some
in to do yoga.
Yep. Very exciting day in the Mackey household for this recording. But these Pro Series TVs automatically adjust your shows and sporting events with Smart Picture Max. Great for football viewing. So much great football viewing over the next couple months. Go to Roku.com to learn more or shop at a retailer near you. Also, Nicolay Law helping to power Purple Daily on a regular basis, the exclusive personal injury law firm of Purple Daily. Russell Nicolay and his team know that when you or a loved one gets injured, ordinary life can get complicated, and that's where you need a steady hand and a group of people that can get you the compensation you deserve after an accident. So if you've been injured, get Minnesota's local award-winning injury lawyers. Get Nicolay, nicolaylaw.com, or give them a call at 1-855-NICOLAY. All right. A couple more categories here quick. We also have a bonus episode where Judd ranks the top 10 teams in the NFL.
You're not going to want to miss it, too.
We'll see where the Vikings fall.
Not going to want to miss
that
it.
one. So category number 3 here is explosive plays, and we alluded to this earlier in the show. In the passing game, the Vikings have 54 pass plays of 20 or more yards, which is #1 in the NFL. They also have 10 pass plays of 40-plus yards, which is the 4th most behind the Bengals, Packers, and Ravens. So 10 pass plays of 40-plus yards. The 98 team had, I believe, 24 is what it was. Mm-hmm. So that team was ridiculous. Mm-hmm. But, the explosive passing plays are definitely a thing under Kevin O'Connell, the 20-plus yard gains in the passing game. Mm-hmm. First in the league this year. They were second in the league last year with backup quarterbacks playing for the entire second half of the season.
Yep.
On the rushing side, they only have 5 runs of 20-plus yards, which is the 6th fewest. So the explosives are almost exclusively in the passing game. But, yeah, what do you make of just like short term, they lead the league in explosives in the passing game. But it was also a thing last year under Kevin O'Connell, too. I mean, this is part of his system. He wants these guys to be hunting down the field.
I think the most important thing when you, as O'Connell would say, marry the concepts with the personnel, I think the most important thing is the existence of Addison makes it a reality. Like, because you can talk about explosive plays and trying to hunt down field. Hell, we saw it. But if the receivers can't get there, can't run the right routes, drop the football, I'm going through things that have happened here, then it does not work. When it happens, it's pretty and it probably looks simple, but I think it takes a lot. And when you have Justin Jefferson drawing lots of times huge attention. That frees up Addison, who is a definite explosive threat. Like, that's where that draft pick to me comes back to being such a good pick, because that right there gives you a player that can actually execute it. Now throw in the fact that Sam Darnold throws a fantastic deep ball.
Yeah.
And it's the perfect storm.
Yeah.
It's the absolute perfect storm of explosive plays. And explosive plays actually that are largely worked through the air. Because you can catch a 15-yard pass and rip off a huge explosive play. But it's different when you have a quarterback that can throw that ball and a receiver that can run that route. I mean, think about the amount of explosive plays, Phil, that Cordero Patterson could have been involved in if he could have run the right route.
Still in the league and producing, by the way, Cordero
And doing
Patterson.
what he does. And these teams were smart. They moved him to running back. They did different things. But I mean, the Vikings saw him as this type of guy, as a go route 9 route type of guy. And he couldn't run the routes. Addison, to his credit, runs the right routes.
This also helps explain why the Vikings have been ranked near the bottom of the league in just total plays run on offense too. Because
Yes,
the trade-off is
That's a great
like
point.
they're getting a lot of their yards with these big chunks.
Yes.
Because it's not like they're failing on third. They're like top half of the league third down offense too.
Nope. You nailed it. It's yes. And again, it comes back to the one issue is, and this is an O'Connell thing, but it's also who you have thing, the running game, which is better than it was,
It's still not great.
but still not great. And unfortunately, like the Cardinals game, like it was interesting to me that early in the game on Sunday, O'Connell went out of his way to give Aaron Jones the ball. Now, that wasn't necessarily a preview of what was to come, but he was trying to, I think, say, I still trust you. But in the Falcons game, they benched him, rightfully so, don't blame him, but they also then sort of bailed on the run.
Yeah. Yeah, the Vikings, that's the one thing, and again, this is a transition year in which they're 11-2, so like no one's pretending like this roster is perfect. I mean, it was always supposed to be a build toward maybe 25-26. But that's the one thing, they don't really have that club in their bag, which is, hey, today we are going to run the ball 32 times through your soul.
Right. Exactly.
The Lions have that. The Niners have had that in previous years.
Yep.
The Packers have that. The Seahawks, like Charbonnet ran for like $150 in that game on the road against the Cardinals Sunday.
It's very clear now why the Packers let Jones go and signed Jacobs. Like we're seeing that. Jones has done a lot of good. Like, yes, he's fumbled too much, but he's done a lot of good. The running game's taken a step. Mm-hmm. But all of that being said, when you watch a Packers game now, Jacobs does what you just said, which is you can pound the rock. I don't think you can pound the rock with Jones. I think you can get some good runs, but he's not a guy who you're going to go into a game saying, all right, 28 times today, buddy boy, we're going to hand you the ball and you're going to punish people.
And then the last category here, state of the offense, is I just looked historically at, because the Vikings have a top 10 scoring offense. What happens in Vikings history when they have a top 10 scoring offense accompanied by a top 10 scoring defense, which we have here right now? Yep. The Vikings right now are 9th in offensive scoring and 6th in defensive scoring. And if you go back 45 years to the end of the Purple People Eater run, where for the entire decade they were basically like top 5 in both categories. So you get to like the late 70s through 2024. 8 different times, including this year, the Vikings have had a top 10 scoring offense and a top 10 scoring defense. I'll give you the years and you can kind of reminisce about the sports dad can reminisce about. Ready. I mean, they went to the playoffs all of these years. Okay. They went to the NFC Championship game 3 different times in the 7, not including this year.
Sure.
So 2024, 2019, 8th ranked offense, 5th ranked defense and scoring.
Yeah, that would have been nice.
2017, the 10th ranked offense and the number 1 ranked defense.
Yep, and again on that one, you were in a situation where that defense was everything that the coach wanted. Like, that was Zimmer's baby.
Yep. And part of it's helpful when you have the number one defense, your offense gets put in some great positions to cash in on short fields and what have you, right? So that was helpful. 2009, the second-ranked offense and the 10th-ranked defense.
Yeah, and that was an offensive team. That defense was great up front. I don't know. I did not consider them to be great in the secondary.
Yeah.
But they did have Twan. Like they had some players back there. Yeah, that's an interesting one. I'm trying to think of, as you go through this list, I'm trying to think of the one that like most might remind me of this team.
Yeah, there's because all these have different flavors and personalities.
I like how you put that, flavors. That's an O'Connell staple too.
That's right.
Flavors.
Mm-hmm.
Flavors, because this is the journey. Like in your quarterback or season journey, this is the journey. Okay, go ahead.
98, the number one scoring offense, and it's funny they had the 6th ranked scoring defense, which if you didn't watch that season, you'd be like, "Wow, great defense." No, what happened was they would just take ridiculous leads, and the opposing team would have to abandon the running game, and then John Randall and company would pin their ears back, and they would play defense with a double-digit lead for 4 months. That's
again some really good players on defense, but yeah, I would not consider that to be like some type of, oh my God, they're going to shut people down constantly.
Yep. 1992, the first year of Denny Green. They won 11 games. They had the 4th-ranked offense and the 7th-ranked defense. They got beat in the playoffs as an 11-win team.
Was that Dungy at DC?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yep. And then twice in the 80s under Jerry Burns. 1988, they had the 4th-ranked offense and the 2nd-ranked defense. And then 1986, they had the 4th-ranked offense and the 5th-ranked defense. Playoffs both years, but did not make a meaningful run. So
yeah. Interesting. I'm trying to think if the 2009. I mean, Favre was Favre. That was special. I'm trying to think if that 2009. But I think this defense is better overall than that 2009. But the front was dominant back then.
And it's not like 17. 17. That defense was even better than this defense. But this offense has more upside than that offense to me. And because Keenum was he was phenomenal, but like Keenum wasn't going to go out there and just completely 342 and 5 touchdowns and zing the ball down the field.
I think if we went through the last 20 years and I was to give you the year on the record and say, what's your recollection of like which side of the ball? 2000, as fun as 17 was from a Keenum perspective, defense is the first thing.
Yep.
Like this team, it's very split. Like the defense is good, but the last 2 weeks it's been leaky. So yeah, this might be its own thing.
Yeah. Yep. So there's your state of the offense here. Some meaty and weighty short-term and long-term Sam Darnold discussions here. Yeah, Randy Vike 69. Maybe send him a tweet and just make sure he's okay, or send him some cream or something. I don't know, some powder.
He just needs to settle down.
Just take a deep breath and enjoy the season.
Yeah, it's gonna be okay, man. It's gonna be
Randall. Okay. He's the sports dad for vacationing Dex, who is probably sunburnt to all get up after 48 hours in Maui here. I am Phil. This is Purple Daily, Daily Vikings Entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.